Hello everyone. So this is a journey of self-improvement, and if anyone can get some help from this, help themselves, then that's fine. But the point is to teach myself, not really to teach others. So let's just start with the title, the first slide, slide, the first presentation, first slide, the lean startup. So we're going to cover what is arguably the most influential methodology for modern entrepreneurship, the lean startup. This isn't just a set of buzzwords, it's a scientific approach to create and managing startups. It's a process designed to steer you away from failure and towards a sustainable business by focusing on one thing above all else, which is learning. Believe it or not, the way you learn is the key for success. So, I would say the biggest risk for a startup is, let's just start with a hard truth. The number one killer of startups isn't a lack of funding or a buggy product or a crappy UI or UX. It's building something that nobody wants. So we call this building in a vacuum. A founder gets a brilliant idea, or at least he thinks he has a brilliant idea, locks himself away for a year, right? Which, if you're a developer, you've been through this, you know what I'm talking about. Polishes every feature to perfection, and then launches to absolute silence. It comes like a blackbird, one of them US Air Force airplanes that can reach, I think, 10 G-force, stuff like that. Uh, I, I might be mistaken, but point is that it can travel the whole planet or stuff like that. Some weird shit that nobody knows about it. Nobody, it just appears out of nowhere, like those bombers. So, yeah. The point is that these developers build a beautiful solution to a problem that didn't exist. So, the lean startup is designed to prevent this exact scenario, right? So, the core, the build, measure, learn loop, just this one. The core engine of the lean startup is the build, measure, learn, BLM, BML, sorry, BBL. That's me. Sorry, I apologize for that. BBC. I, I don't even know what I'm saying. So, build, measure, learn, build, measure, learn, feedback loop. Basically, you build, you measure, and you learn from feedback. You get some feedback from what you build. Then you build some more and you measure it and you learn some more. It's a simple but profound shift from traditional way of thinking. Instead of a long linear path of a big launch, you operate in rapid iterative cycles. It's pretty much like the methodologies, waterfall and agile, right? When you pick, if you think about it, to build an app, right? You pick a methodology, pretty much the same. So traditionally, it's just a linear. You just go all the way, and then, oh, I got a product. Nobody needs it. Okay, thank you very much. I'm gonna go back in and cry, right? So basically, instead of doing that, you just constantly get feedback because feedback is very, very important, right? So first, you build a small experiment, not a full product, designed to test one of the core assumptions. Okay. Second, you measure its performance by getting it in front of a real customer or real customers as quickly as possible and collecting actionable data, right? That's just where it is. So then third, you learn from that data, which is vital. This is why all the big companies in pretty much all everybody's crazy about data now. They go crazy about data because they learn from it. That's why LLM is so popular because of the learning ability from the data. That's why it's free because otherwise nobody will let you use it for free unless they're collecting data to improve themselves. And where they're gonna be, where they already are fucking like a pop star, whatever, they're gonna start charging. And it's not you that you're using to generate a picture for a profile picture on Facebook or something. Obviously, businesses that created systems that rely on them. So that's when the money comes in. So obviously, these guys followed all the way through. But the point is that data is very vital and when you're creating a product because gains basically insights, right? And lets you know what to do next. So the goal is to get through this loop as fast as possible, right? And based on that learning. Okay, so next thing will be the minimum viable product, or better known as MVP. Or we probably hear this MVP from most valid points or stuff like that. But yeah, this situation is if you're a gamer like me, right? You probably heard this MVP term, but this is minimum viable product, which means uh, basically is the build part of the loop, which is powered by the minimum. This is one of the most misunderstood concepts in the startup world. An MVP is not your final product, which is the first product. So with fewer features, it is the absolute minimum amount of work basically required to start learning. Yeah, learning. Again, keyword learning. So sometimes an MVP isn't even a product at all. It could be a simple landing page to measure interest. You all want the view at the top. You won't want to be driving the no. You don't even want to drive the fucking Bugatti anymore or Ferrari. What you want is just to park your Ferrari somewhere, make a video about how some girls sit on your car and you refuse them because they are gold diggers. Like this is the level you are now, and get viral on YouTube, some shit like that. So you're on some weird shit. I'm telling you. So so basically, let's just get back. Sometimes an MVP isn't even a product at all. It could be a simple landing page to measure interest. Okay, so a video demonstrating a concept, for example, or even a manual service you perform for your first few customers. It supports its its basically its purpose is not to be perfect. Its purpose is to test the hypothesis, right? So I guess as a starter, when you start, you should have more than one MVP. It makes sense because it's simple. Like it's a small thing, and you're learning on in testing. You don't go with one MVP. Like you're gonna look like an idiot. So the kind of testing, it depends on where you're presenting it. It's all it's a long process, man. So at the end of the day, the only metrics that matters for your true. So if you're not measuring progress by how many features you built, how do you measure it? So what is progress for you then? Because progress is measured in features that you build, right? The the answer is validated learning, right? This isn't about vanity metrics like page views or sign-ups. Um, it's about generating or email lists, or generating empirical proof that you are on the right track. And yeah, on this note, just want to add one thing. Uh, y'all tripping with all this. The prices that people, I was just looking there just last night on websites that people basically sell. And the prices they ask are fucking ridiculous because they have some measurement points, whatever. They crunch on some numbers and then they come up with 35x, whatever. They making on a month 10,000 pounds and they asking a million or stuff like that because they say, oh, you're gonna get the money back. It makes no fucking sense. All of you're just pushing in numbers that you could basically inflate. They're not realistic. They are unrealistic, whatever. And then you crush them numbers together, and you just, 10 times that. Ask the 10 time price of that. It's like, well, if you want it, you want it, right? You're emotional and in your feelings, which is the same thing, by the way. But the point is that it's not all about crunching numbers, and basically the numbers don't even add up in most of cases. But it's not about collecting all sorts of nonsense reviews, and it's about really solving a problem, really having an efficient product at the end of the day. So, but try to tell that to the people that live in their heads. So, yeah, you're all building all this nonsense and then you living in your heads and then whatever. We're not gonna get it. So, yeah, in our core assumption about is our core so what so validates learning answers validated learning answers that hard sorry let me just so validated learning answers that hard questions. Are customers using the features as we intended? Does this change in pricing increase conversions? Is our core assumption about customer problem actually true? Every cycle of the loop should produce more of this validated, actionable knowledge. So y'all, it's like y'all looking to reach the top and then you just sitting there. You think you got a website going on, that's it. I invested this much or that's it. Same with the housing business, same with the cars. Y'all think if you pay £70,000 for a car, somebody else should pay you that money. No, bro. You got screwed. You're an idiot. This car what but max 50K. So you see what I mean? This goes with everything in this fucking world. A lot of people they just basically take advantage of the ones that don't have knowledge and they don't educate themselves, and they just use all sorts of tactics to trick them into signing contracts and nonsense like this instead of focusing on actually providing a proper, to be a fair dealer or stuff like that, right? They're providing a proper deal, a proper product, stuff, all that. So yeah, so the strategic uh, choice, pivot, or persevere. So this brings us to the most critical decision basically a founder has to make. After each experiment, the validated learning you've gained will point you in one of those directions, these two directions. If the data shows your hypothesis is correct and you're making real progress, then you persevere. Makes sense, right? You double down on the current strategy and continue to optimize and build. This is not gambling, okay? It's strategy. You prove an hypothesis. It's science, bitch. So, but if the data conclusively proves that your strategy is flawed, you pivot. On the other hand, if you go on gambling machines, roulette, or fucking whatever, right? Slots, there's a 7% winning rate. What do you think is gonna happen? You're not gonna get your money back. Obviously, it will trick you into getting, you know, believing that you're winning, and then you lose everything because that's the strategy. You just what you putting yourself into it. So that's what happens when you're not really testing hypotheses and improving on a feedback, right? And leaving it in your head. You're gonna get into a position where you think you're doing everything good. Yeah, it's all good, bro. We're talking about we're winning, and then boom, that's it. So at the end of the day, you know, if the data shows your hypothesis is correct, then you're making real progress. I said that, didn't I? If data conclusively proves that your strategy is flawed, you pivot, and a pivot isn't a failure, obviously. It's a structured course correction designed to test a new fundamental hypothesis. So basically, you could see this in a positive way, where you'll say, well, it's a pivot, you're not a failure, you learn from your experience. But let's just admit it. Like, do you really want to learn from losing, or you want to learn from winning? 'Cause you learn more from winning than losing, isn't it? I may be wrong, but you know, like, what kind of stories do you have? Oh, I lost that much money, I lost that much money, I lost that much money, and then I win once. I don't think you really have a successful story there, isn't it? Like, it just proves that you're very stubborn and you don't really follow a strategy. Anyway, so at the end of the day, even if you think like that, it's still good. 'Cause it's a structured course correction designed to test a new fundamental hypothesis. So you're thinking, well, I knew, regardless of how it is, I'm going to learn. But the point is to actually double down on what works, right? So uh, even if you lose, if you back down sometime, you pivot. Obviously, the point is when you pivoted, quickly adapt and improve on that. So take that as an opportunity, right? Don't just keep going. So basically, it's an intelligent strategic chess, basically, of direction based on what you've learned. So I would say that why this is essential for founders. Well, so why is this discipline process? Why is this discipline process so vital for a startup? That's the question, right? Why is it vital? First, it perseveres your most. It perseveres your most valuable resources, which is time. Some say cash. So it's incredible, but cash is not your valuable resources. And the most valuable is not even time. It's um, I would say a good heart. That's the most valuable. Like, you know what I mean? Be a good people, be good people, bro. Being good people. That's your most valuable. Because if you're an asshole and you got cash and you got money, time, you're still an asshole. Like nobody likes you. Okay. So yeah, but anyways, in this situation, you want to preserve your cash. So it's incredibly capital efficient because it prevents you from wasting money building features that don't matter. So now you got 10 features and only two of them matter. The others, you can get rid of them. But, you know, if you were disciplined, you wouldn't have built all that. Me personally, I'm learning. But, anyways, second, systematically reduces risks. Startup is a bundle of assumption, and lean method forces you to test the riskiest ones first. So, what is a startup? It's a bundle of assumptions. You just assume is gonna work. You don't really know. You kind of have a hinge. You're kind of smart enough to identify real problems, and try to capitalize on them. But when you present that, when you start up, right, that MVP or whatever, that's just a bundle of assumptions. You believe, you assume that this is how it's gonna be, not really certain about it. So prove, put yourself, apply this lean method, which force you to test riskiest assumptions first, right? And stick with the one that really you have feedback and really you can double down. So most importantly, it keeps you relentlessly customer focused, which is vital when you're creating a product that clients should use. It's not for you, it's for people. Okay? You're not building based on your own vision in a dark room. You're co-creating the solution with your customers based on their actual behavior. So obviously before this, I don't know exactly how it used to be, but it used to be all sorts of forums, all sorts of groups. You get together with others, you kind of steal each other's ideas and stuff like that, right? But now it's a lot of AI driven stuff, so people kind of got away from that and they all build in silence and they bring up, oh, look, I got a result. Put it there and try to make it convince us that that's the shit, that's the best thing. But come on now. Anyways, that process has to be basically constantly anchored to feedback, client feedback. So, conclusion, stop guessing, start learning. Obviously, ultimately, ultimately, a startup is an experiment. At the end of the day, your initial idea is just a hypothesis, a proven hypothesis. Then the lean startup provides the framework to apply the scientific method to that experiment. So, as I said, it's all science at the end of the day. It's not a gamble, bro. Your goal is not to be right from the start. Your goal is to find the right path to a sustainable business before you run out of resources. So, a lot of you find yourself in a position where you're trying to build a house and you don't go all the way. This is the same here. You're trying to build a website, but you don't go all the way. Trying to build a business, you don't go all the way. And you find yourself stuck in the middle because you haven't considered all the steps, because you don't have a clear idea. You just go on hinges and on ideas that you're emotional. You don't understand this is a business. At the end of the day, it makes money, and there's no emotions involved in business. You gotta be strategic and mathematical. So, yeah, stop guessing and start learning. Learn methods, learn patterns, learn ways, learn from others, test, yeah, test theories, and then adjust your hypothesis and whatever, and yeah, create something that people actually use and is proven that it's working. And you make sure that when you reach the point that you open shop, You know there's profits coming in. You know that things work and it's a functional system. You're not up here emotional and crying and all that nonsense. So that's what's up. I hope this help you understand the lean startup method and apply whatever you can. And yeah, see you in the next one.